Okay,
Supposed to make the equipment big enough to take it down.
we needed some.
I was asked to look at that.
Right, because we didn't approve this last week.
Yeah, I was asked to look at that. Here is what jumped out at me, is the date of the invoice and the date that it was encumbered. Hold it, please. The date that it was encumbered. It's not encumbered until March, but there's an invoice, March of 2012, and there's an invoice, depending on how you look at it, mine was kind of tore off on the copy machine, it's either January of 2012 or I was told maybe even November of 2012. So based upon that, it would appear that the Sheriff's Office has not followed the statute on purchasing.
In the amount of $27,673? Is that the one we're talking about?
Let's see.
Total radios?
Yeah, it was total radios, and the PO is
306-930?
930.
That's what I've got.
And again, you guys read these things every day, and I apologize if I misunderstood. But I'm looking at the top right-hand corner, and that shows an encumbrance date of March 20th, 2013.
Yes, that's the requisitioning.
And then I flip a couple pages to a legal-sized piece of paper, invoice for Total Radio. Has an invoice date on the left-hand corner, top quarter of the way down. Hey guys, I'm real distracted. Noise distracts the heck out of me.
That'd be Ryan.
Well, I only got one brain and it's pretty well used. And it has an invoice date originally, and it somehow was changed. But the original invoice date, it says, has an order of October 22nd, 2012. It's on the original invoice because the invoices were changed for some reason.
Okay, I've got two.
You have two copies. Here's the original.
Teresa, can I get a copy of all this? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you have a changed one.
They should both be on here.
That one says 13, that one says 13. Okay, here's back here.
Yeah.
But that's the same as...
Okay. What I'm calling your attention to is this date down here and this date here, which is somewhat cut off.
Right.
All right. It's my understanding, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, that the statute says that you encumber on the date that you're going to make, that you're setting aside money to make a purchase. You're ordering it.
Correct.
And that has an order date of October of 2012.
Correct.
The purchase order is not encumbered until March of 2013.
Right.
I can only look at what is provided. Those things do not meet the statutory requirements. It does not follow the statute.
So, if we pay it, are we breaking the law?
At this point, I would tell you, you would be acting outside the statute if you paid it, until we get more information from the Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
I have a question about that. Do you mind?
You can ask it, but I don't know if you'll get an answer.
Okay. There's been other instances of this type of error before, many of them over the
For which
last
office?
year. All different offices, where purchase orders were put in after a purchase was made or invoice was dated. But you guys have signed those before, so I'm curious why now.
is it your question, Ms. Wilkin, that this board should violate the law on this purchase order? Is that?
No, my question.
Okay, let's stick with what's in front of us.
My question
Let's
is-
stick with what's in front of us. So they have a purchase order today. Are you telling them because they may have erred in the past, they should continue?
No.
Okay, then
No.
the past is
Do you mind
irrelevant.
if I speak, Mr. Iskey?
I don't mind if you speak,
I'm just.
but you're asking the board about a legal question that I've just told them could subject them to a violation of the law.
Right, and my point is that you've given them legal opinions that say the same thing before, but yet they
Maybe
continue
I
to
have,
do
maybe
the
I
action.
haven't. Can you give me examples?
Okay, what about the machine that Mr. Helm bought last winter that was in his barn? That was not, a purchase order was not put out for it until after he'd already received
Can you
it.
tell, if you can help me remember, again, I've got one brain that's pretty
Okay,
well used. I'm
give you
answering your
another
question.
example.
Examples are not helpful. If you can show me something that I weighed in on, that might help me. But just saying the board approves something doesn't necessarily help me, because that doesn't indicate that they asked me.
Okay,
All right?
I understand.
Do you understand the
So
point?
would you like me to give you some examples? Or
No, I'd like you to show me so I could help remember. I'm sorry, I cannot, based upon your track record, Ms. Wilkin, I cannot rely on what you assert.
Okay, I understand that, Mr.
And there's no need for you to smile.
I would just,
Because, legal advice is very important to me. And you've accused me of, in the past, of advising my clients to break the law.
I'm not accusing you of anything, I'm just asking the question.
You have the paper, and you have accused me of breaking the law in the past. So I'm asking you for examples. Because I'm telling the board today, paying that invoice as it stands would not be lawful.
Okay, and my only question is that in the past, there has been
I don't
given
know
advice.
anything about, Ms. Wilkin, I'm not going to discuss the past unless you can lay down something in front
I
of
would
me.
be happy to provide it to you,
Then
I
when you
just
do,
don't
we'll
have
discuss
it
it.
right now.
Well, we can discuss it when you do.
I
What ifs and maybe so's and your interpretations really are not helpful.
I'm not interpreting anything, I'm just asking a question. I don't appreciate you, being so.
You don't appreciate me responding to your question?
No, I don't appreciate.
Don't you think I have a fair right to respond to your
You
question?
can respond to me, but you don't have to be
What?
rude.
Okay, please, turn the camera and tell me how I am being rude to responding to your question about giving legal advice to this board that breaks the law. How is that rude by me responding?
I'm talking about the way that you're speaking with me.
How am I speaking with you that causes you to have your tender feelings hurt?
My feelings are not hurt. I'm just
Okay,
asking you
then
to be
if your feelings
professional.
aren't hurt, I don't know. Tell me what is unprofessional. Let's define things.
Personal attacks, those are unprofessional.
Do you deny then that Declare More Progress, for which you work, has accused me of breaking the law? Do you deny that?
I am not going to.
Do you deny that?
I'm not going to respond to that
Well,
question. That's ridiculous.
then your assertion that I am doing something personal to you is solely baseless then. You can't support your position.
Okay.
Thank you.
Again, my question
Do
is.
you guys need anything else from me on this particular purchase order?
Other than we vote to deny it?
Yes.
Okay. I mean,
Until and unless the sheriff comes to tell you why they didn't follow the procedure.
well, he did put somewhat of a sticky note? Sticky note, yeah. No, it just says, had talked to company in October 2012. Jerry took care of this. I did not receive all items until now. I discussed this with Teresa in the county clerk's office, Pam Room. Well, what does that tell us? That doesn't tell us anything.
And it really isn't on Pam's back
No, I understand.
to do that.
I understand, but that's the
Yeah.
explanation is.
And there may be
I
more
talked to
information.
Teresa.
And I didn't
Yeah.
remember talking to her about it.
It didn't say
And
you said
there
anything.
may be, Commissioner, there may be more information that makes perfect sense out of this.
Right.
But based upon what you've given,
What I
it
see is
just
that
isn't
they didn't
enough.
receive the items, it says. However, that doesn't change the fact that they should have encumbered
You should have encumbered it, and
on the day.
again, I think the law says that you have to show, your requisition officer has to be able to provide some document
Right.
of showing what was received. So they should have that document as well.
I'm coming back before I start roads, I'm just saying.
Commissioner Thacker, I'm sorry to bother you, but
Yes, ma'am.
I never got my question answered. Do you guys know? I mean, I'm just trying to find out what the procedure is, because I know in the past the same type of thing has come up.
Well,
So can you just explain the procedure to me so that I have an understanding?
The procedure is you encumber the money before you order or buy or purchase anything.
Okay, and then when that doesn't happen,
But see, this one also is completely in a different fiscal year on top of the other part of it. So that might have something to do with this.
As it stands right now, based upon that.
And here's the thing, you know, yeah, I need that, oh, never mind, I've got the number right there. Yeah, no, I've got a copy, So that changes it as well, being in a completely different fiscal year.
okay, so in the past, when you guys have been advised to go ahead and sign ones that have errors, and I mean, this is not, it's not like this doesn't happen. Every group that has, every government agency deals with this type of issue. Sometimes people order things before they're supposed to, you know, before they get their
And
paperwork.
sometimes,
I mean, that's not, I've seen it, schools do it, you know, city, yeah, everybody does it. It's not,
sometimes they strike roads without a bid too.
I know,
and
but-
Encumber the money, and there's a big story and investigations.
well, and I
So,
understand that.
so at this point, I mean, I'd have to agree with Mr. Iskey on this one, because it is, not only is it an error, it's in a completely different fiscal year. And that, the DA's office has to sign off and say, yeah, it's legal to pay this.
Right, but my question is that, and this is what I can't get an answer to, last year, there was a few different examples, and granted, they didn't cross fiscal years, but for instance, the Donaldson PO for almost $1 million that wasn't put on until after the work was done. The road striping,
No, we have
there's
a letter.
3 or 4 different types of things that have happened in this exact same thing, and yet the board paid it, and so
No,
that's
it's
my
not the same
question.
thing. It's
I mean,
not.
except for crossing fiscal years.
That's one.
Yeah.
And this $1 million deal that you were talking about, we signed off on that to pay once I received a letter from Donaldson saying that work was performed when he said it was performed.
But the PO was still not put on until after the fact.
That was an error.
Right, but
He
this
should
is
have
an error
PO'd- He
too.
should have PO'd it sooner. But then it's a bid item as well. That changes some things. Of course, I assume this total radio business was a bid. No, they're not exactly the same. Each case has individual portions of it that are unique to that particular item.
Okay.
And, I mean, I'm not saying they're completely different, I'm just saying they're not exactly the same, is what you said.
Well, I'm just trying to get a grasp on who makes that determination and what is the basis for it when it seems like there's similar cases that have happened.
There have been some similar, that's true. But when it's a different fiscal year, I mean, honestly, are you wanting me to say, given the environment that we're living in now, that we shouldn't be even more cautious?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I just want to know what the process
What's
is
this
and
one?
why the decisions are different from time to time. And, you know, what the procedure is. I mean, those are my questions. I'm just curious in why some things change from time to time. And
Because we're proactive rather than reactive.
now, what
Sometimes
happens?
we just have to react.
What happens from this point, if this isn't paid, then who has to come up with the $27,000, or is the equipment returned, or what happens then?
I'd say, well, I don't know, we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it, I don't know, we've never.
And then my next question would be, if the Sheriff's Office has violated the statute, does the DA's office pursue that as a crime or an
Given the
investigation?
environment in which we find ourselves, I don't see how the DA's office, on the one hand, could pursue it, but on the other hand, the DA's office has to do their job,
Right.
Maybe they can put it in on the OSBI investigation that they've called for on the DA, they can look at stuff like this while they're at it.
I don't know, I'm just asking.
I do believe
Because
that's-
I know that I've read legal opinions from Mr. Iskey before where he says that so-and-so broke the law, the statute was violated, but yet nothing was done. There was no investigation, there was no action, and those POs were paid. So I'm kind of curious why this is different than that instance, and
I
he didn't
don't
answer
know.
my question.
Yeah, I couldn't answer that question, but I have to say that,
Maybe you can cast some light on this for me. I'm trying to figure out this situation with the radios. Why was the purchase order not made prior to the purchase? Because
You know
that's what
which
they're
one it
saying,
is?
that the purchase was made.
here's a copy of it.
They're saying that the purchase was actually made back in October, and the
Well-
invoice was October, and then the invoice was changed, but there wasn't a purchase order made until after the fact.
March of 2013.
And you weren't in here, but Mr. C was just saying that the sheriff's office violated the state statutes by this procedure, and, but I couldn't get an explanation. He's advised the board not to sign the purchase order, but I couldn't get an explanation why they've signed purchase orders before that had a similar problem.
Right. I don't know.
They're similar and not the same. And you don't have all the information right there. There are invoices.
Yeah, he has multiple invoices that, I guess the dates are
Dates
different.
conflict, and I was told about this some Friday, and I'm still trying to figure out what to do. So I don't have a good answer to that yet. So hold that thought.
And so what we were asking is for you to come up with the information on, whatever we need to try to get these people paid. And that is what Iskey said. He said not to pay it today.
With the information he had today. He
With
made
the
that very clear.
information. I mean, that is different.
Yes.
So we were gonna have to contact you and ask for,
Where-
explanations
Where would I find the rest of this information?
in the clerk's office. In fact, she went down, she had it here and.
I asked for copies of everything
Gotcha.
so that I could write, look at writing a story on this, but I need a little more information.